Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again. Welcome back to the Midwest Mogul Show. We have Michelle Maiman in the podcast studio today. Michelle is a world-renowned real estate broker, real estate investor, absolute badass boss. And Michelle, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, world-renowned. Let's lower people's expectations here. Well, Michelle Maiman, I have been in real estate for 25 years.
Okay.
All local, for the most part.
Dang.
I moved to Kansas City for 3 months and decided to come back. But I got my license while I was there, so I could have sold house. I didn't.
Okay.
I started in real estate very, very young.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to happy hour with the agents because I wasn't old enough to
wow.
go.
Dang.
Yeah, I started in the lending side, and then Tamara Van Cray said, "Hey, I make more money on this side of the table," and introduced me to her broker, and then I started.
Rest is history.
Yeah, I started in real estate as a real estate agent, and I thought, "Oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna make a ton of money."
As everybody.
How is that?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was great. The first 6 months, I made zero sales, and I'm watching all these people run around, and they gave me a desk and a phone book and a phone tied to the wall because that's how old I am. And I'm like, so what do I do? And they're like, yeah, you just call people. I'm like,
what do I say?
Oh my gosh.
What? I don't understand this. I have a desk, a phone book, and a phone. No training, no skill set.
Really?
I mean,
Anything.
no.
Now, kind of to interrupt the story a little bit, do you think newer agents have it easier now than they did way back then? Or what are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's always
They have information at their fingertips, and they don't do it.
Yep.
They could go to YouTube.
Yep.
You could get seller scripts, buyer scripts. How do I do a seller presentation? They can do anything. How do I overcome this objection? There's thousands of videos for anything that they need.
Yep.
And yet they don't
do anything.
Right.
Yeah. So but I just think it's because it's like, well, if it's going to be 30 minutes, I'm not going to watch it. We just have a different world. But back then, so that they gave me the phone book, and I remember the first time I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I flipped to a page, and I
Rotary phone.
Oh, okay, this is the first.
I was going to say,
I'm not that old. Shit.
Hey, we have one right over there. We don't know for the people viewing.
But I'm like, I just pointed at a name and called them, and I remember it just being the most awkward moment. I was like, what did I get myself into? I mean, I might make more money on this side of the table, but how?
Yeah.
So 6 months, no sales. And then I was running out of money.
Oh, I can imagine.
It is. It's like you're struggling to get by. What kept you in it at that point?
Do you know Tom Rooney?
I'm familiar with the name. I'm very familiar with the name.
So I was working at the time as an agent at Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
And I was defeated. Yeah. And it was like January. And Tom Rooney said to me, "You look defeated." And I said,
damn right I am.
Yeah, no kidding.
6 months, no sales. I'm supposed to make more money on this side of the table. Keep in mind, it was January. I had left the company that I was doing lending for. And I got a phone call from my loan processor at the end of the year. And she said they had to give loan officer of the year to the number 2 because you were number 1.
Oh, geez.
So I knew how to hustle.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So I knew how to hustle if they came to me.
Yeah.
They came into the credit union and they need a loan, and I could hustle and I could get it done. I didn't know how to go out and get the business yet. So January, he said, I look defeated. Of course I am. He said, don't give up. It's always slow in January. It's always slow in February. It will pick up. You've stayed in this long. It will get good. Keep hustling. Keep doing what you're doing. And at that point, it was like just a little click. What do I need to do differently? So I would sit outside of the conference rooms when seasoned agents, top sales agents would be meeting with their clients. So I could hear what they were saying. I would walk, instead of sitting at my desk twiddling my thumbs, I would walk around to agents and listen to them make their calls. so I could download scripts. I had no choice. There was no YouTube.
Correct.
There was no
go online.
There weren't real estate coaches everywhere, and if there were, I couldn't afford them because I had no sales.
Right.
So that's really basically. So I started doing that, and then I picked up a. Every day I would go into the new listings. I'd find one that I thought was going to sell quickly, and I'd either call the people that lived in the neighborhood that I knew lived in the neighborhood, or I heard wanted to live in that neighborhood, or I would find somebody connected to that house and just say, hey, this new house came on the market in your neighborhood. Do you want to know the price? Should I send you the listing? Should I send you the information? You can compare it to yours. I just start these conversations. And then by the end of the year, I had 25 sales.
Holy shit. Yeah, so it goes from absolutely nothing to crushing. Was Tom like an initial mentor to you in that business, or what kept you in it? Because that's kind of obviously there's a certain mindset that's involved with it, but even newer agents now, if they go 3 months without a sale, or 2 months, or even a month, or it's like, oh shoot, I didn't expect this. But what kept you in it, Michelle?
Well, honestly, I didn't know at the time. I have ADHD. I did not know it at the time. It was the dopamine hit. Yeah. When I would close a deal, I get a dopamine hit. I got addicted.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It's like sucked me in.
Yeah.
You know, my first sale, I'm like, this is amazing. Second sale, this is amazing. And then I would go have a dry spell, but I was like, you know,
still moving forward.
You're chasing the deal.
Yeah.
Chasing the next
Is it still like that for you? Is it like, do you enjoy the hunt of the deal more than the actual, I guess, behind the scenes stuff?
Okay. Absolutely. Well, I could was talking to somebody. I said, I can be on the phone all day long, recruiting buyer leads, seller leads, investment leads, agents, all day long. You give me a file to review for compliance, I'll look at that same file for 8 hours and I will never get through it. I'll find every distraction in the world.
It sucks. And that's where I guess playing to your strong suits obviously can help out tremendously. And it's you can hire the weaknesses or whatever the case is. But I guess from going from the agent route starting, then you had some initial momentum. Was it always like that? Obviously, you've been an agent for a while. Like during the recession, did that have an effect on things, or what was your experience throughout the years of, okay, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but how do I get through this?
So there was a pivotal moment, and it was before the bubble bursting.
Okay.
And it was watching some seasoned agents that I found as my mentors. Yeah. There's a group of women, and some of them they're not here anymore, right? But they're I would watch them, and they at the time, now we post everything on social media. Of course. But we would be first page of Post Crescent, top producer, right? Chairman Circle, President's Club. And that was a goal. Like, I want to be in the paper. I want to be President's Club. I want my face and with all the letters, RVR, CRS, GRI. That was what I thought I wanted. And I watched one of them retire, and she was sobbing. They had no retirement, She hustled, got her money, spent it on her Lexus, spent it on her nails, spent it on her name brand, whatever, image. Had no money to retire on. And I was like, I can swear, right?
Yeah. You're good.
I was like, there's no fucking way I'm doing that. I'm not working 40 fucking years to cry when I retire because I have a designer bag and I can't pay to feed myself. So I was like, I'm going to take the lessons of how to be a good real estate agent, but I have to take the lessons of what she did wrong too, and what they did wrong, because there's multiple real estate agents that fell into that trap of I want my name in lights, but who cares if I can feed myself when I retire? And I want to work till I'm 80. So I ended up researching how can I use real estate to make money, and that's how I became an investor. I started flipping. Because everybody thinks it's amazing. Flipping, you're making instant money.
They see the price tag at the end of it all, but they don't see all the sweat, the tears, and everything that go into it, and the stress. Just stress. Yeah, just
and everything I did wrong. Right.
Yep.
It would sell for $200. Maybe I can make it sell for $250.
Yep. Oh, okay.
The budget should be $50,000. I think I can do it for $20,000.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I'm at $60,000 in. It's selling for $200. I'm barely breaking even.
Oh my gosh.
But I figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we'll create a flip business. And that's when the bubble burst.
Yeah.
I was sitting on probably 6 houses.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. Backwards.
That's so.
Wow.
Did you guys, and I'm trying to remember, because I know we've had conversation on this before. Did you have to foreclose on those? Was it bankruptcy, or what was getting through that? Like, what was the solution to those?
It was picking up. So for each one,
yeah.
Pick up another one.
Okay.
Because it's obviously a bubble burst, so we could pick it up for next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Flip it, put them both on the market. But I had to make sure the one that was profitable sold, so I could bring the money to this closing.
Oh,
we had it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took years.
Yeah.
To clean it up, and then it was like, okay, we cleaned it up, and we can do it again, but we can do this smarter.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't flip. Maybe we will burr. And we'll create a portfolio, and then we won't be so risky this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2014 hit. I got diagnosed with cancer. We weren't risky in the real estate world, but we didn't have health insurance.
Oh,
I have goosebumps, and like literally all over my body.
Wow.
So again,
yeah.
So the flipping world, when we came out of 2008, we came out of that. It took a while, but it set us back a little bit, but not how 2014 set us back. 2014, I came out of that. Our net worth was negative hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Mm. Yeah.
Wow.
Couldn't breathe.
That's
tough.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. So obviously that's a huge, hit when something like that happens. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're getting better and everything like that. I guess what went into the mindset after, I guess you're cancer free and everything. Now you're looking at, you're in the negative. How am I going to actually push forward and get to basically get my head above water and everything like that? What was that, I guess, shift for you, or did it really ever go, I guess, like that drive that you kind of had prior to being diagnosed?
Well, a lot shifted with the diagnosis, because first you go into survival mode.
Yeah.
And then you come out of it, and it's like, I just shared with somebody, it's like, you're missing teeth, really, but so you feel like you just got beat up. Like I just was in the ring with Jake Paul, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It was Mike Tyson. You'd be okay.
Congratulations, you survived.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I feel like hell. But I have no choice. I have children.
Yep.
We are massively in debt. If we're done, right? We got to do something. But I didn't have the energy to go hustle. I was tired of hustling for the sale. I didn't care about dopamine at the time.
Exactly.
And then I was offered a role that was salary. And I took it. And that's where I met Caleb.
Okay.
And he knew all about the situation. And he was like, rather than try to pay this off, why don't you start buying assets that pay the bills, that pay it down? And so was the first, okay, we need to start doing this. We started doing the BRRRR method and pulling it back through, pulling real estate. We were kind of gun shy because we had gone backwards twice, but we started to do that. And then COVID hit, and we were on a good trajectory, but it was slow. And COVID hit, and that year, so I was married at the time, and my ex was in the racing world. Racetracks were shut down.
Oh, yeah. Jesus.
He didn't work, right? So what do we do? And Jason Matz and I worked together on building, just doing real estate, doing wholesaling, basically, right? So we built up a portfolio, but we were buying it ourselves, and we just added to our portfolio that year, just hustled and created that. And then by the end of that year, COVID, we went into 7-figure net worth.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's crazy. I'm getting goosebumps as you're telling the story.
I just kind of have a quick question. I guess when you're doing the BRRRR and everything like that, going through COVID, was there specific kind of criteria you guys were kind of looking for? Is it single family, multifamily? What was kind of the, I guess, I don't know, focal point when it came to, the properties you were looking for? You've seen, the ups and downs. You've, lost money on a lot of properties? Did you kind of go in thinking, okay, now I've learned all this, all this stuff about these types of properties. I know that these ones are going to be best and most secure for your future moving forward.
I mean, in the beginning, I think we just looked at numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did single families, duplexes. We really weren't going bigger than that in the beginning of prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Just because we hadn't done it.
Correct. Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we'll do this one at a time. If the numbers work, and we got smart about making sure the numbers work.
Yeah, right.
So the numbers would work. We would pick up the property, and that was like, it's a little bit harder now, but at the time we could truly burr, and they'd just give us our money and we'd take it out and we'd put it back. Now it's like, oh, we still want you to have.
Yep.
You need a year. So it's a little bit harder for the newbie investors to do what we did back then, but it can still be done.
Yeah.
Right.
If they find the right people to give them money.
Correct.
And then with the partnership with Jason Metz, we just, I don't know, we just took off.
Yeah. Trajectory.
Dang.
It was just, and it's now like after being like pretty much battle tested for the last however many, decade at least. Yeah. It's like of the ups and downs and the highs and lows of things. Is there certain things that you reflect on now that you're like, maybe if we did this differently, it would have been better? Or, hey, now like hindsight's always 20/20, but like things that you would recommend to newer people if you were bestowing knowledge upon them? Like, hey, remember to do this, or remember to check these things, or anything like that. Does anything come top of mind, Michelle, on that side?
I mean, can I write a book?
Yeah, you should.
All the things
Yeah.
The numbers are the numbers.
Yep.
Don't inflate them.
Yep.
Be conservative about the price you can sell for if you're going to flip, right? And be generous about your budget, because you'll always go over.
Correct.
Have good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times I would be standing in a house and the contractor would tell me that they were working in the basement. I'm like, where?
Yeah.
Are you Casper?
Exactly.
I'm actually in the house right now. So really have a good core group of people. Oh my gosh. What else? What else could I mean, have good lenders.
Yeah.
Don't just assume because they did it once, they'll do it again. Because if the numbers work, don't worry, get it under contract. Because if you can't do it, you can assign it. Make sure your right hander assigns, because you can assign it to somebody else who can if your lenders decide, well, you're, like I'm in that boat right now, right? Because I am no longer a we, I'm a me. So when I go to these lenders and they're used to lending to we, they're not used to lending to me. So there's a little bit of skepticism. Like, was he the
I gotcha.
stable one? Yeah. So I have some that are willing to do me alone and give me the financing, some that aren't. So just really communicating and knowing what you can and can't do. Partnerships.
Well, that's what I was about to ask next is the people component. Have you had some, and you don't need to name specifics or anything like that, but have you had takeaways of like, okay, and Joe and I and my dad own properties together, and we were going through there's pros, there's obvious cons, as in any partnership, but do you have any scenarios that you've went through in the past that you're like, oh, I would never do this again? Or anything?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
I get married. I'm just kidding. That has actually been the lesson for me for 2024 was the right partnerships.
Yeah.
I would always do it again. I wouldn't have gotten here without the partnerships that I had. The portfolio that we built with Jason Metz, I own it. The other guys are out.
Yeah.
It's actually, I've had it under contract. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, no shit. Dang.
I started Haven with a partner.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the lesson is partnering is great.
Yeah.
It'll get you where you want to be, but you have to know that you're going to make compromises. And if there's places you're not willing to compromise, you really need to identify, do you want to partner with that person?
Right.
I didn't know myself, I think, well enough to know. So what I've learned is I would compromise for the other person. And so all of 2024, I was offboarding my partners going, what do I want? So I don't ever concede or compromise in ways that I don't want to. Like, I'm not a heavy risk taker. I'm a conservative investor.
Yeah.
Some people will do just cash flow.
Yeah.
Some people will do just equity. I need both. I'm going to buy a property, I need multiple exit strategies. So if something happens, I can sell it and there's still margin so that I can at least break even to sell it. Or if I want to hold it and the market pushes down and I have to reduce rents, I can break even for a while. I need multiple exit strategies, but some people are like, well, cash flows so much. Well, great. What if you need to sell it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Why would I need to sell it?
You have
Cancer?
no idea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cancer might make you want to sell it. You know, I've had those real life experiences, so I'm conservative. I also don't so my ex can make 50 grand in a month easily. Yeah. So he goes backwards on some risk. It's like,
it's a blip, small blip.
It's a quick turnaround. I go backwards. I don't make 50 grand a month.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
takes longer to recover from a mistake. So I have to be more conservative. And I know that about myself. So when people call me and say, do you want to be in this partnership? And I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to.
Correct.
Someone else might who has a higher risk tolerance than me at this time. I might, it might raise, but right now that's where I'm at.
And I think with partnerships, I think people are always like, they see that, okay, as a partnership, we can do more together. And it's like, the concept is phenomenal. And I think anyone who gets into partnerships, it could be for that reason or whatever the case is. But then once you're going through it, and what Joe and I had a conversation about, even the property that we own together, it's like, okay, I might want to sell, but Joe and my dad don't. Or Joe might want to sell. But when you're making these compromises for the integrity of everyone, you don't necessarily want to hurt any feelings. But that can sometimes come across when it's like, okay, we're having a difficult conversation. This is what needs to happen. Are we all going to be on the same page, or are we not? Right. Or does someone want to get bought out, or someone does not want to get bought out? So,
and I was just thinking while you were talking, and Carter, I think it comes down to having those difficult kind of conversations and figure out, okay, if one of us does want to sell or one of us wants to split apart, like, what does that exit strategy look like? Can we set a plan up, ahead of time for when that day does come? Because at some point it might come. But having something, I feel like, set up, that's probably something that would benefit all the parties that are involved in a partnership. But a lot of people just kind of overlook that, and they see the the shiny diamond in front of them. They're like, okay, let's dive head first and go after it. But then when life does happen, someone might want to sell, and if you don't have that conversation, it can be pretty brutal and tough if people aren't on the same page.
You've had to experience that. I've experienced that. I mean, we've had partnerships that, I want to sell. Okay, I'm ready to buy. I want to sell. This person wants to buy. Then you have those that are sticky, and they can take all year to figure it out. And the whole time it's like, oh, I'd like to move on from this mess, but I can't because
they're still
stuck. I'm that person. I go in, and then later on I'm like, oh, I probably should have considered this. Still.
But it's
I'm still that way. I probably won't change much in that way. I'll take the lessons from the past, but the new ones, I'm not the personality that's going to look at it and be like, what is the risk? What is the reward? That's not how I'm built. So I just have to surround myself with people who are built that way and say, hey, could you not do that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly. It's like, this really bugs me. Yeah. And if you keep doing it, we're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
Right. Now, like, after learning all the different things, and even like in 2024, reflecting on strong suits and weak suits, and Joe and I have done the exact same. And that's where I'm like, because you're at a certain threshold, you're being pulled in so many different directions. And you're like, I'm growing to hate the day-to-day of whether it's the business or just different things going on. Like, what have you found that you have, where your actual passion lies? Is it with, like, I guess I'll leave a kind of open-ended question there.
Well, growth. I love I love recruiting. I love closing deals. I love making relationships. 2024, I did not do any of that. So, so I had a 20-year relationship end, and it was very clear, therapy, you need to go down because you just keep pushing, make yourself busy, and then you're avoiding all this, and it's accumulating, and it's just not pretty. And I was touchy, right? It's like sunburnt, right? My emotions were sunburned. So you say something, I was like, So I need to go down and just really figure out, who am I? Where do I need to heal? I just need to grieve stuff.
Right.
And there was no way. Like if I would have met with you and I wanted to join a real estate company and then you said no to me last year, I'm like, I'm being rejected.
Yeah, it's like a death. Yeah.
Again and again. I can't take any more rejection in my life, right? And then through the healing, when I actually don't take rejection that personally. I just had a year where my skin was a little sunburned.
Yeah. Right.
So now that I'm back and I feel myself again, oh my gosh, give me the phone.
Yeah.
Don't give me that paperwork. Give me the phone and let me make deals happen. Let me have conversations with people. Let me find out what their goals are. Let me see if I can connect them with the right people. Hopefully I'm the right people.
Yeah.
If not, so that's where I love to spend my time and energy. And I make more money when I leverage the pieces that I hate.
Yeah, it's you just can avoid having to do it. And that's where, like you said with the paperwork side, like I know that's not my strong suit. Even like certain things like running through the bookkeeping stuff.
You
I'm
mean
like,
it isn't?
Yeah. I'm like, this sucks. And then Joe's like, well, whatever, we're squaring up on deals. And then I'm like, okay, I need to run through the numbers now because he needs to get paid or whatever the case is. I'm like, it sucks so much that you do pretty much everything else to avoid it. But and I think what was it like for you making those first hires? Like when you're bringing people into a business?
So my very first hire was after I had my first child. So she's 19 and almost 20.
Okay.
And at the time I was like, do I hire a babysitter? And I thought, well, no, I want to spend this time with my child. So instead of hiring a babysitter, I hired a part-time assistant.
Okay.
And I thought, well, dollar for dollar, if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to hire an assistant to take care of my business so I can be the mom.
Yeah.
Right.
And I learned very quickly I was able to make more money because I wasn't bogged down. I didn't know I didn't like paperwork because I could do it at that time. Like, well, I was super anxious.
Yeah.
So I was able to do it and dot I's and cross T's. But when I handed it off to someone I trusted, I made more money.
Yeah.
So much more money that I needed an assistant and a babysitter, right? Same. I couldn't do it without a babysitter. And I downloaded that lesson really fast. So I have not gone without at least an assistant or a transaction coordinator since then, 20 years ago, like 5
That's
years
crazy.
in business.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was willing to give up money for time. I value time, and I don't know if I even knew that back then, but I valued my time, and I still value my time. So I was like, I would rather give up some money to get my time and then realize that I can make more money and cover that cost and then go on. In Haven, the one thing that's inevitable about real estate is movement.
Yeah.
It's moving, it's constantly changing, and hires and hires and hires.
Yeah,
and
correct.
I remember not that I'm judging.
Yeah.
But the baby boomer real estate agents are like, you have a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
No shit, it's real estate.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like they're constantly moving.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't prepared for the fact that that's going to happen. So I was trying to like settle down their personalities. They're just going to get out of the business at some point. I can't settle down their personalities. It is what it is. So I still have to make new hires because they rotate every, 12 to 18 months.
Correct.
And I still stress out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Peter Stick will say, you hire sometimes for potential instead of proven talent.
Correct.
You want to give people an opportunity, and that sometimes bites you.
Yeah.
And I do it a lot. So.
And I think that's the difficulty. And then you're putting this pressure on yourself. It's like, okay, I'm going to hire this person. And then if they don't work out, it's kind of like, oh shit, like that kind of hurts. And it's no different than like the sunburn analogy that you use. It's like, okay, is it reflecting on me? Maybe not. It's a difficult thing altogether because you want it to relieve the stress and anxiety that you might be currently feeling. But if they're doing a poor job or they're not doing what they should be doing, then it's like, well, we need to make an adjustment here.
And quickly, which is not what I did last year.
And
I had to sit on it because I wasn't in the mindset. So now that decisions are made and we have some changes in Haven, I recognized I look for potential, not proof in people, right? That's a gap for me. So if you're in growth mode and you're always looking at it, look, where am I failing myself and my people?
Right.
Well, I find gems in people that might not be there, right?
Yep.
It's like it's fool's gold. And so I hired somebody. I found an organization, and they're like, these are the things we're going to work on. And one is identifying how to identify the right people and why I don't always see what the gap between action and talk so that I can be a better leader. So it's still going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
There's less of it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It is. And I think anyone who says business is easy, like it's such a freaking liar. Because I'm like some of the shit that you are in the process of going through, even though it's in the grand scheme of life and longevity and everything like that, it's pretty minimal. But still, when you're going through it, you're like, oh, why the hell is this happening to me? Or like you almost feel sorry for yourself. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, let's just get back to reality. Everyone's going through the same shit at any given point. But that's very interesting. What has it been like being the managing broker for, like, I guess all the agents? Like, how is that? Like, I can imagine. Well, any year, we're gonna leave it wide open just so no one feels bad. But
I think that I have a different mindset around it. Some people have a really tight grip, and everything's got to be this way. And they fear judges and they fear lawsuits. And I'm like, well, we got E&O, and people make mistakes, and for the most part, we can use amendments to correct it, and so I'm not that I don't have that big tight of a grip.
Yeah.
But this year has been 2024 because of and I'm gonna say it. The NAR lawsuit.
Yeah, I know.
The NAR settlement was painful because it changed, right?
Yep.
And while we're dealing with the change, we have agents who don't get it, didn't listen to anything, didn't show up for any of our meetings. Brokerages that all have different rules.
Correct.
And they can, so we don't collude, right? Not that we were.
Yeah.
Let's put that out there.
Yeah.
We were not colluding, but it looked like it, apparently, according to judges. And so navigating that and then wanting to work with the brokers, but then I went to go have a glass of wine with a broker. And we were going to post it on Facebook like 2 days after the change. And we're like, should we?
Yeah, no shit.
We're
That's
nervous.
like changing your...
They're watching us, right? So that was
There you go.
So I was like, this is weird. And all the calls. And then the calls from the brokers and my calls to the brokers because, well, your agent did this and that's not acceptable. And okay, I'll call them. Or, I got to call Center 21 or Remax because their agent did something. And then they're like, okay, I'll talk to them. Yeah. But we got through it.
Yep.
And I think we're mostly on the other side.
I know. That's what,
until it changes again.
Correct. And it was a bit of a transition because it's like you didn't know how the marketplace was going to react to it. And even now, like for the most part, everything is pretty darn similar to how it was. But then there's some more hoops that you need to jump through and everything like that. But that's kind of in the contract paperwork side of things. Did you find, well, I guess in the last 12 to 24 months, have you seen a lot of the agents, like say newer agents, have they been able to last in the business or has there been like a lot of churn?
That's a good question.
It is a great question. There's been, I think overall this year we saw December, the people fall off. I mean, so 2023.
Okay.
Units of sale was the lowest since 1995 nationally.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it predictably, I don't know if the numbers for 2024 came out, but they were predicting it would be less than 2023. Yeah. So we really had a lot of, there's just no inventory,
exactly.
right? So it was tough on our agents. It's tough on the new agents. The part of being a broker that people don't know is I get the phone calls. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm behind on my mortgage. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm 2 months behind on my mortgage. I want to stay in real estate. What can I do? What they don't understand is as real estate agents, when 100 of them are under the brokerage and they're getting squeezed, I'm getting squeezed as a brokerage times 100.
Yeah.
So should I have raised fees to manage the profitability of the brokerage? Yes. Was I going to? No.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to squeeze an agent when the market's already squeezing them, right? So it's like, well, I can hold on. That's the beauty of having built up a net worth that allows me to do that. But I think we lost maybe 20 agents.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, some of them started their own brokerage. Yeah. Some of them were like, this is not it. I can't do this. Some of them shouldn't be in the business because you're not, some of them are like, I don't like to talk to people. You're in the wrong business.
Correct.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't, Do I fall into bed some nights because I talked all day long and I'm exhausted? Do I look at my daughter sometimes and be like, Mom doesn't have any energy to talk to you. I'll listen. Yeah. But that's just how we make our money.
Right.
And I think people get into real estate, at least from what I've seen, like new agents, they're always so excited and they see the potential. And then you see like the TV shows or YouTube channels or whatever. And like people are making a crazy amount of money from the perception is they're making a lot of money. But then the reality hits of it took me 6 or 7 months to get the first commission check. Same with you. And I'm like, most people cannot, and some people might have earlier success than that, teach their own, but most people cannot last 6 months or 7 months without a paycheck.
Most people can't. No.
Most people probably can't last 3 months without a paycheck or 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a month. But do you think that, like, say a new agent is starting, or even in any business for that matter, would you recommend, and I guess it depends on personality type, but would you recommend like a safety net? Like, hey, continue working your other job, do this kind of on the side until you're getting some momentum?
Well, what did you do in the first 6 months? How did you survive? Yeah.
I was living at my parents'.
Mommy was helping clear out.
But no, in the reality, it's like you're doing whatever you can. So it's like side jobs and then just trying to make like a little bit of cash on the side to supplement whatever bills. And I didn't have, like, I wasn't paying rent or anything like that, but you still have bills. Like I had a car payment. So like you're just trying to get by.
Well, bless your heart. Because my mom and I could not have done that. I flipped a house. And took the money and I put it aside so that I could build my real estate. I don't know. I would suggest, I also continued to have small part-time gigs. So I was young. Nobody wants me to do this anymore. But I was a cocktail waitress. It was awful. I was bad at it. So bad at it. And when you're 5'2" and you're walking through a crowded bar and all the 6 feet tall guys, watch your elbows, guys. Stop flinging them into the cocktail waitress. How many times I got elbowed in the face for those $2 tips? So I did that. I coached dance. So just some things to bring in some money just so I had something. And then I also worked part-time for my broker, which was actually probably the best thing I did because I learned a lot from her.
Correct.
And so I did have some of that as backstop. The advice that I have given and would give is if you got to keep your full-time job, I understand that. But if you don't need to keep that particular job, if you can find something flexible, something in retail where your hours shift, something at a bar or a restaurant where your hours shift, where you're like, if it's just about I need to make money, go find something so you can flex, and because it's not going to be a crutch, right? Because some people use it, and then some people will only do real estate if their friend or relative calls them. You're not going to build your business working at your job and waiting for your friends and relatives to work with you. You got to hustle to get the business while you're got that other Band-Aid.
Right. No, that's smart.
I know. That's what it is. We had a buddy of mine in here, and he said, because he got in on the investment side of things, and it took him, I think Cam was saying, like 9 months to get his first deal. But the entire time, and even for like a year and a half, 2 years after that, he was still working full time at the job to put money into the investment business. Because do you think it's possible to do things from $0 in marketing spend or advertising now, like just doing it like word of mouth? Or do you think it's easier? Well, it's probably easier with spending a little bit of money, or what would you recommend if someone's like, hey, I have $5,000, Michelle. I want to get into real estate agency. what should I do with the money?
With $5,000?
Yeah. Or 10,000 or whatever.
Ads. Get leads.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes to get leads. I mean, I tell people there's 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Top agents have 3 sources. Get with your sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So do whatever it takes to pour into your sphere.
Yep.
Social media.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks. I hate it. I'll tell you I hate it.
Yeah.
And people are like, you post on Facebook all the time. I'm like,
But it does suck.
But it's because I want to stay top of mind
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be real.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so you're going to see my kids.
Yep.
You're
Mm-hmm.
going to see F-bombs.
Yep.
You're going to see my tragedy, right?
Yep.
And you're going to see my success.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to put on a face when I meet you.
Mm-hmm.
But then the third one, I call it the sexy target. So
Mm-hmm.
they're all S's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sexy target. Because I'll tell you, I don't want to work with divorced people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't. So I'm not going to call the divorce attorneys. I like working with investors.
Yep.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
into investor stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work the luxury market. It's,
Mhm.
I will.
Mm-hmm.
I can, but I don't want to spend the money to bring the business in.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Because it's a smaller, in my opinion, smaller return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's, you just got to figure out what is your third, what is your S.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you know that, then we can talk about where should the money go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to say, go farm your neighborhood. Well, if you hate your neighbors,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
that's
kidding.
the worst place to spend your money.
I don't want to help my neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're bad at converting cold leads,
Mm-hmm.
don't do Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Don't do Google ads. If you're bad at it,
Mm-hmm.
then I would say put your money into growing your ability
Yeah.
to convert
Mhm.
cold leads if you want to do that, or spend your money on your sphere, spend your
Mhm.
money on your on those areas
Yeah.
that target that you're going to work on. If you want to be a first time, I was just talking to one of our agents. If you're good at first time home buyers, you might want to do wedding shows.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do a wedding show. I'm a bitter divorcee.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up
There's-
divorced. You know what I mean?
Preach you do.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why you shouldn't
Watch
get
out.
married.
Yeah.
I see a red flag. Come here, lady. No. I'm being facetious,
Yeah.
but I'm still not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm also not the target for
Mhm.
for a, but somebody who's got that energy. Right?
Correct.
I mean, there's some people who like, look at you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's your target? Invest.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
People who need to sell,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you go in and you do everything in your investor world. I tell people all the
Yeah.
time, I'm like, Carter pours into his investment business and it bleeds into his real estate business.
Without a doubt.
Mhm.
And when you told me that you didn't want to work with buyers, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, he doesn't want to work with buyers. I didn't realize until like 10 months later when I
Yeah.
looked at the reports, I'm like, he's
I
worked with
haven't-
0
I know.
buyers.
Yeah.
I'm like, the other day I had to write up an offer on our listing. I'm like, God, I haven't done this in a long time. I'm making sure, like, I have all the things checked, and I'm like, it's different though, because I made the commitment because I'm like, it literally sucked the life out of me. Like going out, showing houses, and then you're on vacation and then people are calling you, and I think it's great. Some people, they're built for that side of the business. I'm not. And I truthfully didn't like it a whole lot. I would rather list something, try to sell it right away, and then whatever, just keep in touch with the contact. But then I'm like, I'm just going to go all in on this. And then if people come in and want to see a house, I'll just refer it out to other agents in the office. Because I'm like, hey, that's the easiest thing to do. And then you can still ideally make something if they end up buying. But I don't know, just kind of going all in on that side was eye-opening to me, because I didn't think it was actually going to be possible. I'm like, well, maybe I'll drop in income a little bit. But then it ended up increasing the income because I had one sole focus.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's people on the opposite end.
Yep,
So
yep.
like for people who aren't good at listings, I would
Mhm.
not suggest to put their money
Yep.
into advertising for sellers.
Correct.
Mhm.
Because there's some people who are so good with buyers.
Yeah.
They love.
Yeah. It's
I mean, I have agents that I'll have to listen to 5 minutes about how amazing their buyer is before I'm like, okay, what's your question
yeah.
about that transaction?
Yeah.
Because they love the people so much.
Right.
They're not going to want to be behind a computer and advertising the house.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah,
Like I'm
no
thinking about it.
kidding.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like bless those people.
Yeah,
'Cause
no
it's,
kidding. Jeez.
that's like a strong suit.
It
Mhm.
is a strong
Yeah.
suit. And so those people, I would say put all your
Yeah.
your marketing money into finding more buyers,
Mhm.
going places where you can find buyers
Mhm.
that you like working with. So
Yeah.
if you're a luxury, if you like luxury buyers, go to the places where you'll find them.
Mhm.
spend your money on that. So I guess it really depends on the person, but it's about leads. It's always about leads. I mean, when I came back from Kansas, I bought Zillow leads.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I went and I'm going by bon voyage. I'm back. And I have my database was with another agent here, so I had to pull it back through. Yeah. And I wasn't going to be like, can you delete it? I was like, whatever. You can market to my database. I'm now going to market to my database. In the meantime, I need some money. So I bought some Zillow leads. And the thing with that is you got to answer the phone when they call. I've had agents that are like, well, I got 3 Zillow calls, but I only answered one.
It's like, it's costing you a shit ton of money. Yeah, I know.
So you have to answer it and you have to turn them. You have to know that you can turn them.
Yeah. And I think it's a little bit of confidence too, because even on my side, I look back at like when you're a newer agent or investor or business owner in general, like you normally just lack the confidence of the ability to do it if you haven't done it before. And that's where even like stopping working with buyers, I'm like, that's completely foreign to me. I've never, the entire time I've been in the real estate business, I've done that to supplement income because it needs something to survive. So like taking that leap of faith is like, it can ruin some people. And I think that's where, like, if you have kind of the, whether it's the financial backing or at least some sort of safety net in place to make sure that, okay, if all goes to hell, then I'll pick up working with buyers again. But yeah, it's that confidence and safety net. And I think there's so many factors that play into it. But what made you want to start your own brokerage? Because I
delusion.
Yeah. I think about it and I'm like, that's
legacy, I guess. So I have in memory, and I share this and to the listeners that have heard me say this. I say it a lot. So Joyce and Otto Bidoff were my first mentors, right? I was at Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group, and I was at their family picnic at Lions Park. It was a big ordeal. They had a huge brokerage, and I was standing at the bottom of the hill. So behind me were the bounce houses and the families playing with their kids. In front of me were the non-parents, dancing and drinking to the DJ. In the middle was Otto Bidoff with his hands on his hips. Yeah. And he was just looking around and smiling. And my ex-husband, at the time we were together, he saw me and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just staring at Otto because he looks so happy." And he said, "Well, it must feel good to know that the work you did helped provide for so many families." Yeah, no kidding. And I said, "I want to do that someday." That was it. That moment. That's crazy. And I've not let it go.
That's crazy. Wow.
I know.
And here I am making $0. There's not a lot of money in brokerage ownership. It's the affiliate stuff, right? It's the ancillary businesses where I make my money. But and last year I would say there was not a lot of fulfillment because it's like, how can you pour in others when you're not really able to take care of yourself? Now the last month, I sold my best friend's house. I might cry. Yeah. Because he died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And closing on his house was like a chapter for me. It was like, okay, that's done. It's time to move forward. Yeah. So and it really felt like, what's funny is my phone rang the day of his closing from his number.
Oh my God.
Turned off. It was a prank caller. Like someone put a prank call. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know if someone did it on purpose. Yeah. They're being a jerk. Or if somehow he's I don't care. It was assigned to me, because that's his sense of humor. Would he send me a rainbow? No. He was a dark gothy guy, right? With long hair and and skulls and all this stuff, right? And I was like, okay, it's just time. So that was the moment where I realized it's time for me to pick myself back up. I love when you guys have deals. I love when an agent calls me because they had a tough deal and they're excited because they got to closing and they put it together, or their client gave them a good review. Like that just fills my cup. Fills my cup.
it makes it all worth it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, it's like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for you, like the faith component side, like, are you Christian?
Yes.
And when did that, and I don't know if you were raised a Christian or not, and that's what I've had some recent experiences, not necessarily, I guess, realizations to a certain extent over the last couple of years where I've grown stronger in my faith. But when did that come into play for you?
That's a great question. I'm not totally sure. My dad was, I would say, agnostic. He was raised Catholic, but then he went to Vietnam and kind of
just went through everything.
And my mom was raised in Vietnam.
Okay.
And she would say, I'm Catholic. But then when I was younger, she'd be like, Buddha say, Buddha say, Buddha say, Buddha say this, Buddha say that. And I was like, well, if you're Catholic, why aren't you saying Jesus? And there's a mismatch between your words and your actions. And it wasn't, we didn't go to church unless my grandma took us there. Now, this is not my proudest moment, but my grandma was a Catholic.
Okay.
And she was a God-fearing Catholic. So she would say, you do that, you're going to hell, Michelle. You wear that, you're going to hell. You say that, you're going to hell. You know, going to hell. And I think I was about 13, and I was like, Grandma, your God sounds like an asshole.
Yeah.
It was not my asshole. Sorry, Grandma. So I didn't have that, right? And then all my life, I was just like, I don't know what I am. I don't know. I don't know. And then when you're sick, you got nothing but faith, right? I don't trust the doctors. One doctor read the wrong chart to me. It was a woman who was stage 4 and had a very low chance of survival for probably 10 minutes, but it felt like forever.
Oh, gosh.
Until I looked at his computer and said, that's not my name.
Oh.
So I downloaded all her pain, right? So then I'm like, I have to go to a pastor. Why? I need to pray for her, and I need to release myself of that, what just happened. So that was the start. And then my girlfriend is Christian, Patty. I love her to pieces. And she's beautiful. She smokes a lot, right? She just, we were at the bar one night, and I was outside, and I'm like, I think I'm an omniist. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. so I started to going on. They believe that every religion is like, everybody believes in one God, and we all just relate different culturally. And I'm going on, probably for about 5 minutes. And I said, so I believe that, my mom's God is the same as your God, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We just all relate differently based on our culture. I said, but I do believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior. She takes a long puff of her cigarette. As she's blowing it out, she goes, then you're a Christian. Puts her cigarette out and goes back in the bar.
She called it out. She was a realist.
Oh my gosh, I'm a Christian. So I think that was the moment I realized I was a Christian, but I was leaning that way.
Okay.
And that's in like my experience. So I was raised in the Catholic church, and then like we would go fairly frequently when I was younger. And then as I grew up a little bit, and then even like at 17, 18, 19 years old, I like you see certain things that happen within the church culture that I couldn't relate to. And I'm like, I still have this, for some reason, a negative stigma associated with church in general. And I always, my perception of it now, at least, is, okay, we're making these pastors or priests or someone out to be holier than thou. And we look up to them as we should. Like they're very intelligent when it comes to scripture and everything. But then I'm like, it doesn't seem relatable to the everyday human. And that's where I'm like, this disconnect in my mind made me almost resent church. And then one of my friends, he's like, well, would you ever want to do a Bible study together? And I'm like, this is probably 3 years ago. I'm like, sure. I said, I'm open to it because I still believe, but I have this disconnect somewhere. And then over the last, like 2024, I read through the entire Bible, which was huge for me. And then I'm diving into things more, and I get a lot more engagement out of it, and I enjoy it a lot more. I'm still struggling with the church thing, but that's where for me, I'm just, and it's still, I've learned to voice my opinion on why I have this disconnect, but I don't know. And I read stuff on it every day, but
I think that's normal.
Yeah.
somebody once said to me, Michelle, don't study Christians, study Christianity.
Yeah.
If you want, if you're interested, because Christians are fallible, we're humans,
right,
including the pastors, which I think there's a lot of pressure on them because they are humans.
Correct. Yep.
So if you want to understand Christianity, don't study Christians, study the Bible. If you and Christianity, if you want to understand Judaism, don't study Jewish people, right? Study their teachings. Don't study Muslims. Study Islam. So that takes that away, because religion. I just had this conversation with my boyfriend that there's spirituality and there's religion, right? And spirituality is capital T truth, right? And religion is little t truth because it's been interpreted and it gets misconstrued by humans who have, even with good intentions, are fallible. So you have to look at the capital T truth. You have to find the capital T truth. And that's when you said you started the Bible study. I'm like, because you studied the Bible.
Correct.
Versus
that's interesting.
Right.
The church is the Christians. The Bible is Christianity.
That's really interesting. I've never actually heard it explained that way, but it makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave it up to the sinful nature of humans because we're all flawed.
Absolutely.
And you got to think everybody has their own, I guess, perspective and I guess value when it comes to spirituality and religion. And you kind of just depict when you're reading through like the Bible, you have your own thoughts and your own meanings behind everything. And I think, when it comes to like church, like you were saying, like it's tough to go there because it seems like the way that they're, talking through everything isn't really resonating as much to you because the way that you perceive it is a little bit different. Not saying that like one way is wrong versus the other. I think honestly, that's one thing too, because like I used to go to church quite a bit with my family. And then we slowly kind of stopped going a little bit more and more just because there's drama within the church.
People.
The people that were in the church. So that's, when that starts happening, I think it helps to just, take a step back, get out of that environment. But I still pray, maybe not every single day, but definitely I've been praying a little bit more recently just because, I feel a lot better when I do it and reading through like the Bible and stuff, it just helps to kind of look I don't know, the way that I look at it is, God basically has a plan for me and he'll basically show me the right way. I don't need to force anything. If I feel like I'm slowing down or I'm not moving fast enough, I'm like, you know what? There's a reason why this is happening. Let it happen. And it'll basically, you'll move along the path, the speed that is meant to be.
Yeah.
Often in hindsight, have you realized that what seemed like suffering was a blessing?
Yeah.
I would say the biggest blessing was my cancer diagnosis. The first time, it was tough. It was tough. But there were so many blessings. And then I got diagnosed the second time. And then I was like, okay, there were blessings the first time. Right? And so you take that and you can look back at things and feel like you weren't being spiritually supported. But you learn reality was actually I was. I couldn't have imagined where that this path would take me here, and it's better than what I imagined. Or the lessons I needed to learn so that I didn't do it again. Sometimes it's not always like, yay. I love that lesson. It's like, oh, thank God I don't have to go through that lesson anymore.
I know it's eye-opening. And I think the more you reflect on it, and that's why I encourage people even listening, viewing, whatever the case is, like whatever denomination or religion that you want to pursue. I think pursuing something is better than pursuing nothing.
Yeah.
And just having a faith component to life in general makes the extremely difficult moments like you can reflect on, like you say, it's like, hey, this is happening for a reason, or there's some sort of ulterior motive behind it that God wants for us. So I don't know, but we've been going for an hour, so we can wrap it there. That was a good good spot to end it. But appreciate you guys watching as always. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.